Hey everybody, Alex Miller at Capnion here. I wanted to talk a little bit about some news you might have seen in the media in the past couple weeks. Very worked up and breathless about China bans cryptocurrency, price plummets, etc. This is not untrue, but I think there's a lot of important history you can use to contextualize this kind of news. And maybe just a kind of first offering, this has happened a lot of times, and in general, it tends to not have any lasting impact on the price. Bitcoin or Ethereum or any cryptocurrency, they're all very highly volatile assets, and they tend to go up and down a lot. And there's often a reason you can point to that day, but in the end, these things don't have fundamentals, and they go up and down all the time, and it's easy to overreact. So the first thing to point out is that China has been making noise about banning cryptocurrency for probably more than 10 years. And people who have been following the space longer or are kind of more true believers are pretty jaded about this kind of news about China. So if you followed cryptocurrency Twitter, I believe September 24th, a couple of weeks ago, was when this news about China broke. There were a lot of people saying very explicitly, yeah, it's going to go down a tiny bit, and then I'm going to buy it, and then it's going to resume going back up. And these people were mostly right. You could look at what's the really long history. I just did a little bit of research, double checking some dates. So, it's actually been since 2013 that banks couldn't do anything with cryptocurrency in China. They banned ICOs in 2017. And there's a few reasons I'll get into in a second why we almost react in the United States with more excitement to crypto news out of China than we do about news about our own regulators. And the ICO thing is a great example because ICOs have also been banned in the US for a long time, and we are not actually a sort of international regulatory safe haven. We are probably closer to being one of these countries where there's all kinds of sporadic, you can't do this all of a sudden, or there's unclear guidance from the regulator, and so on. So why are we so interested in China? In general, I think Americans are really interested in China in positive and negative ways recently, period, point blank. It was true at one time that a whole lot of the Bitcoin mining in the world was in China. And it was certainly true at one point in time that it was over 50% of total Bitcoin mining was in China. And so that made it extra impactful on broader markets, what the Chinese government did. But that has changed over time. To some degree, just more people got in the game and market share was eroded. So at one time, China had really great cheap hardware, really great cheap electricity, which drove a lot of that uptake. And there's a lot of interest from, I think, certainly middle-class Chinese people just looking for an interesting way to save money. That advantage, that market share has eroded over the years. It's worth noting, as they've had less market share, it seems like the Chinese government has been more comfortable bringing the hammer down. A few things going on recently. The Chinese government has always been anxious about people taking their money out of China, and cryptocurrency is a good vehicle for that, so it was never real popular with the higher echelons of the government. And then in other China news, if you've been following, they have a lot of electrical power shortage problems over there right now. And as has been very well advertised, cryptocurrency eats up a lot of electricity. So never really super excited about cryptocurrency from a regulatory standpoint in China. At one time had a lot of market share because of some structural advantages. But as that kind of opportunity has dwindled into the distance, people in government seem pretty happy to get rid of it. And so there's actually some silver lining in this, both from an American perspective and just generally for the health of the cryptocurrency ecosystem. A lot of that crypto mining, I believe, came to the United States. You hear people talk about Texas in particular. When a lot of the Bitcoin mining was concentrated in China, that made people kind of nervous. Was there somebody over there that had an outsized amount of leverage, maybe could pull a 51% attack? It's great in a lot of ways from a security standpoint to spread out the mining all over the world. And you actually saw on this recent, admittedly more intense crackdown, which included miners, people exited. There was more opportunity for whoever was left mining, and people around the world picked up the slack. So To just recap, it's kind of always true that the Chinese government is making a big stink about regulating crypto. It is, of course, important and it affects prices and affects where mining occurs. It's really not a kind of end of the world kind of thing. And as the Chinese government turns the screws even tighter, China will frankly have less and less relevance to what happens in the broader ecosystem.